Hello! Today I'm going to make a lace-up on the back of a wedding dress. So if you're watching this, you probably have a dress that doesn't fit, that is too small, and you can't zip it up in the back, which is the most common reason to make a lace-up. And that's what we're going to do. I want to talk about a couple things. First of all, to make the lace-up, you're going to need matching fabric. And I don't think you can just use fabric from the bottom of the hem. So you need to shop and make sure you find matching fabric to make the lace up, or completely different color. Like if it's not a bridal dress and it's a prom dress, use black or use white and it will be a complementary color. So you're going to need fabric. You are going to have to either purchase or make the 3/8 inch straps that you're going to use for the loops. I know what you're saying. I don't want to do that. I want to purchase the loops on Amazon. Here's the problem. That fabric will not match your dress. So the only time I would do that is if I had a dress that I just wanted to put a black lace up in, and it would be okay because it's not going to be terribly contrary to the dress. So black is either okay or white is okay, but if it's a color, it's not going to match. So you're going to have to make it. Here is Allie's dress. The first thing I need to do is decide how long is the lace up going to be. The back zipper goes all the way down to 14 inches, which we don't need the lace up to be all the way down at her butt. When she tried it on, she could zip it up to just under the waistline, right here. So I know this lace up needs to be maybe 10 inches, and that's all we're going to do. Another thing we're going to have to do is, you see how there's two different layers here? We're going to have to remove these snaps and combine it all into one layer so that the lace up is consistent all the way up and down. We're also going to have to take off all of these buttons. We're going to have to take off all of this, and we're going to have to take off the zipper. So there's a fair amount of deconstruction that's going to have to happen to get this all cleaned up so we can add our lace up in. So this dress, you're probably wondering where I got this matching fabric. This is a pretty good match. Honestly, I had a different bride in, and I chopped up her dress to make a dressing robe, and I used the rest, some of the scraps from her dress to make this, and it happens to match. This was a belt from that scrap wedding dress, but it used to be 1 inch wide, and I don't like inch wide lace-ups. It's too bulky, and I think they used it as a belt or something. I took this apart and I sewed it again, so it is only 5/8 of an inch. That is a good size for a lace-up. I'm gonna make the loops 1 inch apart so that there's still a little bit of room. One lace-up I did, I made the loops 5/8 inch because this was 5/8 inch. And there was no room between the crosses on the back to make it look beautiful. You like to see the crosses in the back because it's a very beautiful kind of a lace-up thing. So I'm gonna make them 1 inch apart. So you're asking me, what is this? Well, this is going to be what I'm going to sew the lace-ups to. Okay, one dress I did, I just started sewing lace-ups on the dress, and then to get the lace-up on the other side to match was terribly frustrating. So to fix that problem, I'm going to make 2 sides of the lace up on 2 pieces of fabric so that I know they match perfectly, so that after I put it in the dress, I know it's going to be good. To make this pretty, I'm going to sew it right sides together like this, but I'm going to sew it like this. Is that right? Just a minute, let me think. So that when I turn it inside out, yeah, I'm gonna do this. That doesn't seem like it's right. Let me just think for a minute. Yep, I think that's right. I want it to be pretty at the top, and so I don't want raw edges. I'm just gonna sew it like this. If I find a better way, I'll let you know. Okay, the camera person, who is also a seamstress, was asking me why I didn't do it a different way, and I think that she had a good suggestion. So we're gonna try it this way. Instead of sewing this first, we're gonna sew it after. So I'm going to pin the loops in here 1 inch apart, and then I'm gonna baste it and then close it up and then sew it so that it looks so tidy and nice. We're gonna try it that way. One good thing of making that mistake I made of sewing it and then taking it out is I can see where the stitch line's gonna be. You can see there's holes in my satin where it's gonna be. I want that opening to be well over 5/8. Now, an inch might be too much. I declared in my opening video I was gonna do them an inch apart, but now that I'm thinking, what if I did them 7/8 of an inch? That will give us 1/4 of an inch space. I know that's being really picky, but I think it's gonna work. I'm gonna try it. That loop was too big. It needs to be less. It needs to be close to the stitching line. How far are we opening? That's only 5/8. I want it just a little bit more. So instead of opening it up more by going in, I'm gonna open it up more by going down, because I don't want these loops to be super big. I want them to be just peeking out of the seam line. Let's see what I've got here. That's an inch. That is close to 7/8 of an inch. I know I'm being super picky, but trust me, you don't want to take this out 4 or 5 times. First of all, 1 1/4 inch wide made a good 3/8 of an inch loop. So I just found a good 1 1/4 inch long strip and cut them. I can stop and end when I'm doing this. I think I have way too much, but it's not super important to have it continuous.
Okay.
I don't want to see the seam on the back. So one side of this is going to be beautiful. So I'm gonna have to give, plenty of that. I know it's a pain. Ow.
Literally.
That was super funny and not planned. Okay, so let me just check that again. That is 7/8 of an inch, and it's gonna be pretty again. Okay, I just had a thought. Let me just a thought. These are 5/8 inch. Okay, so if this one is 5/8 inch here, and it's 5/8 inch here, there's gonna be like almost 5/8 inch in between, and that might be too much. So I think I'm going to move this up to 3/4 of an inch wide. Stephanie, how do you know that? I don't. The thought occurred to me, and I listen to those thoughts as they occur to me, because a lot of times you just have to listen. Your experience, just listen to those thoughts as you try to put something together and think, oh, that's right. It's too much of a gap. We're gonna try this again at 3/4 of an inch instead of 7/8. I am going to baste across this cross. You see right there? I tried to put that right on the seam line at 3/8. Sometimes down here I think I got too close, and I might have to move it as I sew. But I want to make sure I am basting at 3/8 of an inch all the way down. Little tricky. A little bit of a tricky sew, but I'm gonna get done basting, and if it doesn't work, I'm gonna have to do it again. So that turned out pretty well, but I have a couple things I want to fix. Like this loop and this loop are very different, so I'm just gonna take a couple stitches out and fix that. And this one, it's not quite wide enough. I'm going to take this one out and push that over a little bit. So I'm just going to do a little fix up here to make sure they're all closer to 3/4 of an inch. I'm going to fix this one, and then I'm going to go to my other one. So before I sew my second one, I need to put it right up against my first one and make sure that it's going to match exactly along the back of that lace up, or else you'll be undoing and redoing this. So my presser foot, just because this is thick and bulky, the presser foot was pushing these forward. So you see, like right here, I want it to cross like this, or even that is okay, but this one, it just pushed it too far forward, and now this is too narrow. So I'm going to take this one out, and this one is bunched up, but it did the same thing there. I'm taking this one out and this one out, and we're doing it again. Okay, so now we need to, I'm gonna fold this and sew it. but I'm gonna have to turn it inside out. And so I'm gonna do this little trick that I talked about in my other video about how to turn a tube inside out. I'm gonna sew this into the seam. I just wanna do a little 1/4 inch right about there. I wanna sew, if I can, right on top or right to the inside of this, all the way down, right on top as much as I can, and then we'll turn it. All right, we are turning this inside out, tugging on that string, grabbing it, trying to get it to start going. Tweezers are really good for this, just to try to get it to go inside of itself. Pull on the string, see if you can get it to go. Now it's gonna be a little harder with these pieces that I on purpose didn't cut them off, because I was talking to my lady behind the camera, and she and I were thinking it's better to have those there in case you need to readjust the loop later than to cut them off now. So we are going to slowly get this to turn, but it's going to take a minute. So you see we have our loops done. They're not perfect, but they're very good. Now what I did with this one is I tucked that in and sewed the top. You can't have this much extra at the top because the lace up has to start right at the top, very, very top. So I'm going to see how this is open. This was the bottom side. I'm going to continue to tuck this in until I'm at the bottom here or at the top of that, and then I'm going to seam it like that so it can be starting right at the top. First, we took everything out so that I could have a place to put the lace up, but we had to take out some of this seam. This is the waist seam. Because all of this tulle was folded under and out of the way, we took out a couple inches, and now I need to sew the waist seam back into place before I can put the lace up in. All right, I've got right sides together. I'm going to sew right on the edge right there. I've already made sure, line it up with the other side and made sure that the waistline is right in between these two loops, so we're lined up. Want to make sure I'm at the very top of my dress, lined up perfectly. And one thing I do when I want it to line up perfectly, I start in a 1/4 inch, put my needle down, and then back stitch up there so that my presser foot is not pushing it out of position where I perfectly need it to be. I got the loops in and I top stitched. This is going to add strength. Right now, I'm not worried, but I want these loops to be as strong as possible. So I top stitched to give them the strength and to keep them flat. Now, if I didn't have this applique that was gonna go over like this, then I would have top stitched a lot closer to the edge. But I don't, no one's gonna see this. Now, the problem down here is that I don't want to top stitch where everyone can see because this is supposed to be a flowy dress. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to understitch. I'm going to fold this out. See all these layers right here? I'm going to fold this out and do an understitch right here to give it strength, more strength, but you won't be able to see it on the top. Look what we did! It looks so good. We are now lacing this up and trying to get the lacing to look good. So you'll notice that I put a panel in here, and I put the panel starting at the waist. Now why did I do that? Because normally the panel is up here, but this is a sheer unlined dress, and she doesn't want a panel blocking that beautiful part of the dress. So I started the panel at the waist. Now she could very well come in and say, oh no, I want the panel up at the top. But this is how I like it, and I have found that a lot of times if I like it, the customer will like it. So what I did is I did put a snap in here, okay, and put it right there. Now, I might need a snap on the other side, but right now I can't put another snap in because I don't know how wide this is gonna be. She might want it tight, she might want it loose. This may be 3 inches apart or 2 inches apart. So I'm just gonna leave it like that right now. Now, can I leave it like that forever? I could. So we know the dress is going to be tight, so that is probably going to stay in place. If I don't put another snap in there, it's all up to the bride, whatever she wants. If it needs another snap, I'm going to mark it with a little pin inside of here where the snap should be, and I'll sew another one in.